Hi, I'm Scott Grove from Imagine Woodworking. And the other day, I lost a friend and mentor, and the furniture making industry lost an icon. This is Garry Knox Bennett. I'd like to share with you an interview I did with him in January of 2020, just before the COVID pandemic. And I do have to say that his mic was not connected, so please bear with me on the sound. I did the adjustments as best I could. The story is great. It's how he invented the roach clip, how he smoked dope with Mick Jagger, and got into the furniture making studio art furniture business. So I hope you enjoy this story. My heart goes out to Sylvia's wife and his family. Please enjoy this. Thank you. That one's rolling. Take this off. Sit here.
Oh, you want to get into? Oh, yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. It will be through
I'll be talking in that direction.
No, we'll be looking here. I want to get the backstory. So, how did you get into the creative making, artwork, crafts? Like were your parents creative, or when did you get bitten by the creative bug?
I had a substitute teacher one time in about 7th grade, and she told me my handwriting was so nice. Someday you're going to be an artist, and that stuck.
Okay. So, are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay.
I remember I used to paint as a kid, and I did a lot of paintings on the estuary in Oakland here, houseboats and sailboats and stuff.
So you grew up here in Oakland, or?
I grew up in Alameda.
Okay.
Born and raised in Alameda.
Okay.
And during the beatnik thing, Sylvia and I spent a lot of time in North Beach, and I used to go over there and paint. I'd paint Frisco, and
that's San Francisco.
It's not a pejorative. It's an endearment. The name Frisco. All my male relatives were seafaring people, so I would paint over there, and I met a lot of people, all the beatniks, and it was a wild, good time.
And what year we're talking about now?
Oh, probably 57. 50,
okay, late 50s.
59, yeah.
And you were how old?
I don't know. I was born in 34.
Okay,
so
do the math.
Figure that one out. And then.
And what were you doing for a living to pay the bills then? Were you?
Oh, I was, working at Foster Chemical. I was, I working at the Dodge plant out in San Leandro.
Odd jobs. And you're painting.
Yeah, street scene. And I don't know if they're any good or not, but they're, yeah, I think they're all right.
It made you feel good.
So we could go over to North Beach, Sylvia and I, and I could play chess for our coffee and donuts and stuff.
Okay. And
generally not pay for my own stuff.
Sure.
We got married and moved up to Lincoln, California. I had an ex-stepfather, Homer Freeman, who was really, I don't know, he's very instrumental in my life. He was the hardest working man I've ever known, and I would work in the spring planting and the fall harvest in the rice farms. In the summer, in the 40s, I would go up to him when he started out up there, and we lived out in a field under a big tree, no electricity, no water. We hauled water from Coon Creek, just about a mile away.
Wow.
Haul it up there.
Living in a shack kind of thing?
Living in a shepherd's shack.
Love shack.
And he had a big tub, one of those galvanized tubs, and for cooking dinner, we had frying pans. He'd build a big fire and put this tub on it, and I remember this. And we'd get the water hot, and we'd wash our clothes in that. That's how we washed our clothes. And I remember turning the water up just to do that. And then Saturdays, this is no shit, Saturdays we would go down to Coon Creek with a bar of ivory soap and a washcloth. Sure. And this is water that's coming right off the Sierras.
It's cold as ice.
Strip your nuts.
Yeah, right?
Really. So you strip down, get in the creek, and then we'd go into town, and he'd buy us a steak dinner. And I remember he never paid me. Then Sylvia and I got married and moved up to Lincoln, and we spent 4 or 5 years in real poverty up there. And that's going to come in on the sound things.
Yeah, well.
Shut that son of a bitch up.
Okay, well, No, the battery's charged. I have no idea what's going on. I just bought the stupid thing. So you moved back. You moved back there, and you weren't doing really your painting. And how did you get?
I was painting. I'm reading, mainly reading, and I've got hours of stories about living in Lincoln. You know, the stuff, friends coming up because to hunt pheasant and duck.
Sure.
And that's the only time we had booze, when these people would show up, you know, and I can remember them bringing like a gallon of fucking Old Crow, you know.
Right.
Oh, geez. So some friends of ours brought up a junkie to dry him out, you know, figure, oh, we'll take him into the country,
right.
Blah, blah. Little crazed guy. They worked for Capitol Records, or London, one of them. So they brought him up there and they left some marijuana with him. So they figuring, you know, that's going to get him off the smack.
Right.
Well, they left, and with that dope, I started smoking dope.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. I never have really liked it. Cocaine was the really magic white.
The magic dust.
Which I haven't done in 25 or 30 years. I did a lot at one time.
Sure, didn't we all?
So I was rolling cigarettes because we couldn't afford store-bought, so I could roll a good joint, you know. And I figured, Jesus Christ, you know, when it gets way down, because they left a big bag at the time, that was really something.
Sure.
So I figured, I independently invented the roach clip.
That's what I understand. You were the... Well, I understand it was, didn't someone have the alligator clip, and then
everybody used alligator
and you just said there's a better way. So you thought of coming up with a better way. So you were not a jeweler then. You just figured I can make a better roach clip.
Yeah, and I had some experience at arts and crafts, you know, of brazing and all that. A little bit of.
And where'd you learn that?
California College of Arts and Crafts.
Okay.
That's the proper thing.
So you saw a need, and you...
And then I had these record friends coming up, and they saw them, and you know, they would buy them from me and take them down and give them to the, you know, I spent a whole day with Big Mouth, Rolling Stones.
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger in Sunset Studios, smoking dope while they're mixing a record. It was quite an experience.
And did you give him a roach clip?
Yeah. And so anyway,
You and Mick.
Yeah, and they took off. They just started taking off.
And this was in 1961 or 2, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So you're just making them, giving them, they were selling them, you get a little money, you'd make more, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I got back, I started making jewelry, and we had friends that had a shop on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, and they could sell jewelry, so I started putting roach clips in there, as I told you, one of a kind.
Sure.
And they started selling, so Sylvia and I were, you know, and I was doing anything I could to make a buck. We were living in a $150 a month house in Alameda.
Right.
And it just took off. I mean, it was the right time, the right product. And I remember at one time we had, at Squirkin' Works, we had 65 people working.
So, and that was like from 1962 to 1972.
Yeah, 74.
You had Squirkin' Works was the name of the company.
Yeah.
And you had 63 people working for you.
I sold all over the country and learned quite a few lessons, you know, about extending credit.
Right.
The way I first started is I put together a packet of about $50 retail of roach clips, and just sent it cold turkey to different shops. I went out to Berkeley and got there was a paper, maybe what might have been the Berkeley Barb, and they had all the head shops listed.
Sure.
And so I'd send one, if you sell these, here, send me the 25 bucks.
Right.
Want some more? Well, I sat around and waited for the mail for about 2-3 weeks, and pretty soon a check came in with an order for 3 times that much.
Nice.
And then another one, and then pretty soon they started coming in, and that's how it worked.
63 people making roach clips.
Yeah, well, that was
in the peak.
I was making them by myself with a partner I had at the time. It really worked out, and that was a good move. Before I got Rick, that's when I sent these out.
And is that also when you started getting into plating?
No, the plating came quite a bit later.
Okay.
Probably in the 70s, early 70s. It was because we were getting plating done outside and it was terrible. I mean, everybody was really screwing it up and it was expensive. So I said, hey, let's plate our own stuff. Well, plating is not a science, it's an art.
Sure.
We put out feelers for a plater. What happened is I contacted this company down in LA and they sent a salesman, and this fucking guy sent me up. He sent me up so much equipment. I had no plater.
Right.
I had to build a whole building for this plating equipment. So that guy sent me Garry Spencer, and it was a perfect fit.
You partnered up with him and started the plating company.
Well, I hired him and then eventually partnered with him.
And now, didn't that develop into the circuit boards? You were doing circuit panels?
Yeah. Then we bought a big automated plating line where it did plated for Hewlett-Packard circuit boards. So that worked out really good. So anyway, and then Richard Nixon makes paraphernalia illegal.
Right.
So in '74, I went from 60 people to 3.
Wow.
Running the plating shop. And we also made jewelry at the time.
Sure.
Earrings and necklaces and that.
So then when did you start making furniture and become, doing woodworking and all that? How did you transition from that to?
When I was trying to extricate myself from running that, I knew I wanted to do something, paint or sculpt or
Sure.
something.
And Squirkin' Works sort of was dying, so then.
Yeah, Squirkin' Works was dying, but now we're plating. See?
Right, you're in the plating business, yeah.
So anyway, blah, 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 Ginger. Anyway, so I started coming over here like 2 days a week and on the weekends. And then I started cutting, but what I did start with was I started making clocks.
Okay.
And I made quite a few clocks in those first years, a lot, metal, wood, and wanting to work, my thing has been wanting to work bigger and faster. So wood is really a lot quicker than
Sure.
Metal's a lot more forgiving than wood, but so I did a series of clocks, had a show in New York and one in Philadelphia. Really liked it, and that was it. I mean, that's what I are. I are a furniture maker, clockmaker. I have made a lot of jewelry.
And multimedia, so you weren't just known as a woodworker. You'd use whatever, your material didn't matter, you just used whatever you could.
I don't call myself a woodworker, I
Sure.
call myself a furniture maker.
Okay, so I got to ask about the nail cabinet.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fine, nails aside, that piece is a really fine, well-made piece of fine woodworking.
Well, there's, for anybody watching this, all you have to do is Google nail cabinet.
Yes, Google nail cabinet and...
It comes up and then leads you all this shit. Geez, you put me on the map.
Sure.
I got letters from people.
So tell us about how that all came about, because that was not a sort of funky art piece, it was a fine piece of furniture.
Yeah. No, Fine Woodworking published it on the back.
Yeah, so what made you decide to make that cabinet? I mean, did you know you were going to nail it at the end? I mean, did you know you wanted to...
I wanted to symbolically destroy it, but I didn't want to destroy it because of all the work I put into it.
Right.
It worked. I mean, it caused a tremendous sensation.
Didn't someone steal a nail, actually?
Oh, yeah. So I drilled some holes in it and took some, wire and wired, construction wire. It was in New York or somewhere, but somebody took the nail out. So I wrote when the nail was stolen. It's on the inside there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't know about Garry's work, I mean, just Google him. The one other series that I was really impressed with is your chair series. You're making chairs for like ever, but you're cranking them out.
Not forever. For about a year and a half.
Okay.
Our house burned down, and it just devastated Sylvia and I.
Sure, I remember that.
It knocked us out. And to alleviate that, I just had to occupy myself. So I came over here and started working, and I'd never really made chairs. I'd made a couple before.
Right.
But chairs are the hardest thing to make. I had a woman at Berkeley tell me one time, Garry, chairs are the hardest thing. I said, yeah, how come? Well, they got to be strong.
Yep.
They got to be comfortable.
Yep.
They got to be good looking.
Yep.
And they got to be light.
Right. Right.
You know, and you know that is really something. So anyway, and so no, I was having 1, 2, sometimes 3 chairs going at one time. I worked
Sure.
very.
And how many chairs did you make in total in that series?
I made, I think, about 130 chairs.
130, all one of a kind, completely different.
All, well, I did some, there was a couple of
Series, I see you had a couple that are similar, but.
yeah, but I, all within about a year and a couple months. And I said, oh shit, because the house was getting done.
Sure.
I get back to the bigger stuff. So, and I had a show, the Bellevue Museum gave me a show. They arranged for the show to travel, I think, to six or other museums around the country.
Sure, sure.
Very successful.
And some of those chairs are in your book, correct?
Yeah.
Made in Oakland, so if you don't know, get a copy. Buy it, made in Oakland, so.
Amazon's cheaper than we are.
Okay, there you go. Well, Garry, it's always a pleasure coming here. We're going to show some footage around the house and all the great stuff. This place is just amazing. It's so inspiring. Again, thank you for having me here all the time. It's always great to see you. And you have a website?
Yeah, GKB Furniture.
GKBFurniture.com. Check that out.
Pay you later.
Lunch was enough, so.
Worth more than that.
Yeah, there you go. So check out Garry's work. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Okay. All right.
I'm 84. I don't know.
Oh no, I know. What's your favorite tool? I always ask these questions. So what's your favorite power tool?
I've got a couple of them, but you know, my tool I've used really a lot that's been instrumental is the Tanowitz 36-inch
bandsaw. Yeah.
And then, you know, really something kind of crazy in a way, but it's a disc sander. I've got 2, a 24 and a 12-inch.
Yeah. And then
I use disc sanders a lot. I don't
sure.
know, you know, it's the way I work.
And then what's your favorite hand tool?
Those things you have to sharpen and stuff.
Chisels. They're called chisels. Or do you just sharpen pieces of metal?
I still use the ones my wife got me 55 years ago.
And they're about this short now?
No. They work really good as a screwdriver and opening cans.
Okay. And I got to mention Allison. So you do have a, what do you call Allison? Your protege?
She's on her own. She saw my retrospect and in Oakland, and she came and looked me up. And this is a nice story.
Very talented.
Yeah. Unbelievably talented. And she looked me up, and I remember we sat there and we talked, and she wanted to come study with me, be an apprentice. And we talked. Sunday when she left, I gave her the key to the place.
Yep.
And it's been about 16 or 17 years.
Yeah, very talented.
So
sure.
Hard worker, smart. But Allison, I love you, sweetie. She'll probably see this. It's on YouTube.
Yes.
iTunes?
We'll put it on YouTube, and I'll put links to everybody. Okay. So, thanks again. Okay. All right. We're good.
And if you want to go to the second floor of this.
Yeah. We're going to go down. We got to get footage. We'll get background footage here of everything.